Yeah, I think that warmed us up.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
We were all right
I
before
wasn't
that.
expecting it. Like it was a really good shot, but it was like, ooh, warmed the body up. No wonder Dime loves them so much.
Fucking hell, man. So Terry Date was the producer of Vulgar Display of Power.
Plus Vinnie Paul.
Plus
Can't forget Vinnie Paul.
He got a credit on the back of the album there. And Terry also produced Cowboys from Hell.
Yeah.
And a lot of other kick-ass metal albums before that and after it, including Soundgarden, Mother Love Bone, Screaming Trees. Rest in peace, Mark Lanigan, by the way.
Yep, definitely.
Dream Theater, Metal Church, and many, many more. And I think he do Far Beyond Driven? Oh, I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure on that one.
I think he did.
I think he did too, to be honest.
And Great Southern Tranquil, he did, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yep.
So, yeah, they recorded this at Pantego Sound Studio in Texas, which was actually owned by Dime and Vinny's father Jerry Abbott.
Jerry,
Yeah. So
yeah. I think that's where Vinny got a lot of his sound tech skills from, is learning from his father.
So that explains the co-producer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, you think about it, when you listen to Vinnie Paul's kick drum on that, it was that real distinctive. It wasn't a thud like you'd get with most kick drums. It was a real click sort of sound, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And he had that distinctive click and thud going on at the same time, which really, really made it stand out.
Yeah, it punched through, didn't it? Like
really did punch through. But it was just incredible to. I'm good, mate. I'm good, mate. You can have the water there. Water is evil, for anyone who wants to know.
Yeah.
That's just my chain of thought. But yeah, no, Jerry was amazing to have his own studio and stuff, and let the guys record in that studio, and just to know that those albums come from a home studio per se. When you think about it, it's quite incredible. And when you think about, Dave Grohl recording at Sound City and stuff like that, on these massive mixing desks and stuff, where I'm not sure what sort of equipment they use, but I doubt they would have had that huge controlling desk that they had at Sound Studios and that sort of thing. So I guess, as Phil and Rex spoke, I don't know if you saw that interview they did.
With Revolver?
Yeah, with Revolver.
Yeah.
Last week, was it? Last week?
Yeah, I think it was last
something.
week.
And he was just talking about that, how they were really able to, having that home studio there, they were really able to work on their sound and really hone in on getting the right sounds for those albums there. And, I've got to ask you a question, right?
Yeah.
How many times as a kid, right, did you sit there and you pulled your guitar and you tune it and you're trying to replicate Pantera songs, but you can never get his tone, could you?
No.
And I only found out why the other day, and it really blew my mind, but it makes heaps of sense. So apparently, I can't even remember where I saw this. I don't know if it was even Rex talking about this the other day or not, but apparently what Dime would do, he would tune his guitar, but then what he would do, the last three strings, he would tune them down. So instead of it being 440 like every other string, he would tune it down to like 420 or 430. So it would be almost that quarter step lower than what it should be, which gave him that sort of that really sludgy sort of tone.
Yeah.
With those real mid sort of right there. So if you sat there and think about it and you tune your guitar down to a standard E or a D string and you're trying to play, on broken or anything, you can never quite, it would never quite sound the same, no matter what sort of distortion you would put on it.
I remember I read something about basically Metallica and Dime. So I think it might have been James and Dime, or maybe Kirk and Dime. I think Phil was talking about it, and one or the other was sort of giving tips or helping out the other with tone. And I think Dime might have been helping out with technique, or it was around the other way. Like, I can't remember exactly. You know, you watch all these sort of documentaries when you've had a few drinks, and some of it sticks, but not all of it. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, Dime's tone is not to be fucked with. It's It stands on its own, and that comes down to his playing technique as well as the gear that he uses.
I remember Phil talking years ago in another interview where he's like, you've seen so many bands they've seen so many bands come and go that have tried to replicate that Pantera sound, and no one can ever get it.
No
one has ever been close to trying to replicate that sort of a sound.
No.
I think, again, it's that sound, it's that Pantera sound. You'll never hear it again. Never.
I think that comes down to Vinny and Dime as well. And it's not to take anything away from the other two guys, but being brothers, like they grew up jamming together.
Yep.
Like they would have been synced in with each other, on all
from
new
kids,
levels.
Man, young kids playing with each other their entire lives.
Much like Alex and Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
You can't...
you can't take that musicianship away from them.
Yeah.
And that's what it all comes down to, is that musicianship. But I mean, what are those key things as well? Like, we've spoken about Dime and Vinny and little bits of Phil, but we've really forgot about Rex at the moment, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Rex for a moment, because you think about it, I remember seeing Rex play live, and man, did that guy, he owned that bass. He really owned. I'd never seen anyone just run around on a stage with his massive bass. I mean, that being a sort of skinny guy that he was, the lanky guy that he was, and run around on stage with his massive bass and the tone he had in that bass. And I was talking about this with a mate yesterday about this, and it's like Dom had that signature sort of guitar sound, and Vinny had the signature drum sound, and that. Rex, man, he was no different.
Yeah.
If you sit there and you pull his sounds apart, he had that real fat chunkiness in that bass, but you could still hear the high sort of tones in the bass. You weren't just hearing the wob-wobs from the bass like you normally did back in the day from those sort of things. It was just really out there, just really driving. Him and Vinny had that real rhythm section absolutely covered there, and it's almost like Dime's guitars just accented it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the best time to hear Rex is on a few of these songs on Vulgar especially, and probably on a lot of the albums when Dime would play a solo and he wouldn't track like a rhythm guitar, so it'd be just Rex underneath, and you can hear how heavy that bass is. It sounds, and it's a really great tone, and it gives a bit more room to breathe for Dime's solo. But yeah, Rex and Vinny sound great together, and I really like it when it's just bass and drums under those solos. It just sounds really heavy, and there are a few of those songs on Vulgar. But yeah, Rex, I mean, I guess Dime's guitars just saturate initially what you hear, but the bass is there.
Oh,
it is there.
Well and truly. I guess, we can't do it now, but if you got that technology out there to be able to extract all the instruments away and pull everything apart, actually just have a listen to those tones, it's just, it's insane. And you listen to music these days, and look, to me, in all honesty, don't get me wrong, I love some of today's music, man, but it's just a lot of stuff is just way overproduced these days, and you just don't hear the qualities and the tones. Yeah, that real raw sounds of those instruments.
Yeah, I mean, they did pick these songs apart in the studio and made sure they had every note spot on, but it still sounds like they're jamming. So But I guess that's just a credit to the great players that they were, and it doesn't sound overproduced.
Not at all.
Like, albums these days. So I don't know if that's like something that comes down to like recording technique or just general playability of whoever's playing. But they did make sure they had every note. I think I read that they'd strip the drums away and listen to the bass and guitar together to make sure
that was all locked in. All the instruments were all locked in together. But in saying that, again, it's like, I remember him talking about, I can't remember who it was, one of the guys anyway, talking about when they're playing live and that sort of thing. It's like, there was no producing or anything in that. What you heard them playing live is what you got. Like, there was nothing there. It's like they were, like we were just saying before, though, the musicianship was just so there in the 90s with those guys that, I mean, you think about it, you watch all those videos where they're playing live on stage, right? And you got other musicians like Peter Steele from Typo Negative throwing drinks and toilet rolls at them while they're playing, and people jumping on Dimebag while he's playing, jumping on his back or knocking him to the floor, and he's just still chunking away while all this is going on.
Well, there's one video where Dime broke the headstock off one of his guitars.
Yes.
Like the actual headstock, and
he's still just playing.
It still played, so he kept playing it.
Yeah.
And he'd drink a lot too. Like, he was one of those guys. I was talking to Michael Yule about this last night. I'm like, if I have too many drinks, I can still play guitar, but I can't keep singing. My voice is shot. And he was like, well, I can keep singing, but I can't really play guitar. And it made me think of Dime, because in a lot of those home videos, Dime would be smashing the Blacktooth Grins or the Crown Royal, two or three bottles down, still going. He didn't miss a note.
Coming back to 1994 tour, man, I remember halfway through the set, right? Next minute, the stage crew wheel out this whole trolley, and the trolley is absolutely loaded with about 100 beers on there, man.
Yeah.
And Dime just starts throwing these beers out into the crowd.
Yeah.
And it's on, they show it on the videos too. It was one of their things that they did at the gigs, and they'd flick them and see how far they could throw them and catch these drinks, and they would just put them away, man. Absolutely put them away.
They'd catch them and they go,
and just, they weren't full cups or anything. There was just enough in them so they could launch them through the crowd.
Not by the time they got there.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
And it was just insane, man. But I mean, look, guys, anyone listening to these, I just recommend you can download them these days, but just go and have a watch of the Pantera Vulgar videos. It's a sight to see, and it was if you think Jackass was great, mate, I think these guys were almost the pioneers of Jackass almost. Yeah. Just some of the stuff they would do, and, the crazy antics of stage diving and drinking and,
practical jokes.
And just Dime was oh my God, I would hate to be his practical joke. Nah, no way, no would you ever want to. You'd be the most tired bastard on that tour, I reckon.
But by the time they hit the stage, they were ready to go.
And that's, I remember years ago they would talk about that. It was I can't remember his full name, but Cat. Unfortunately, he was one of the guys that was killed the night Dime got killed as well. Yeah. And he was one of the crew members for them. And I remember him saying that, when you're with Pantera, it's all fun and games, but on the night they played a gig, there was work to be done, and you did the work.
Yeah,
you worked your ass off.
Yeah,
everyone had a job to do, and they all did their job.
Yeah, no, I second that. I highly recommend checking out the Pantera home videos. There's, I think there's 3 or 4 now.
Yeah, I think did they release the 4th one?
I don't know.
I know there was talks about releasing the 4th one, but I think it come down to Dime's missus of whether she wanted to release it or not.
Yeah, there's also Dime Vision.
That's what I think it was, actually, Dime Vision.
There's one Dime Vision released, possibly 2, and I think that was maybe more from the Damage Plan days after Pantera. Probably, I think.
Well, I think that's what, Dime Vision would have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
I to be honest with you, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like whenever I see stuff like that, it sort of hits a soft spot for me because,
Yeah.
I'm one of those few guys, and I don't want to talk too much about it, man, but I'm one of those guys where I still remember where I was the day that I heard that Dime had been shot, and I broke down in tears. I was just like, no way, no, because everyone knew that there was troubles with Pantera at the time and stuff, but it really just sort of like cemented it in that was the end of Pantera.
Yeah.
That was the end of Damage Plan too, you know what I mean? That was the end, and then Vinnie Paul announced not long after it that he was never going to play again.
Yeah.
And then some miraculous reason he formed Hell Yeah with Chad from Mudvayne, and it was good to see Vinnie Paul's legacy live on after that, and Dime's legacy even lived on through Hell Yeah as well. We've got a few songs from Hell Yeah dedicated to Dimebag, such as Thank You.
Yeah, I saw them. They supported Black Label Society.
Yep.
Couldn't even tell you when, but it was just great to see Vinny on drums. But yeah, Dime was he 38? Yeah. I think.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't tell you how old he was.
I don't know why I'm thinking 38, but I think he was only 38 when he was very young. And I think they pretty recently actually burned that club down, or it got burned down.
Yeah, it got demolished. Yeah, it got demolished. And, I remember they were talking about it, like, I remember a lot of guys talking about it when they announced that it was going to be demolished, that club, and they had graffitied a massive rock out the front, and someone wanted to grab the rock and keep hold of it and that, because it was a tribute to Dimebag, pretty much, that rock. And I'd love to know what happened to it. If anyone knows, let Craig know. But yeah, really sad story. Really, it's
pretty unbelievable.
It really is unbelievable, man. But you know what we've got, man. You know what we've got. We've got these albums here, man, to breathe that legacy still. We can still hear Dimebag every single day of our lives in these recordings, in those videos. That dude has gone down in absolute history. This band, Pantera, has absolutely gone down in history as one of the greatest heavy metal bands of all time.
Yeah, and, we lost Dime in 2004, I think it was.
Yep.
And, it's almost 20 years ago, but he's still, much like Hendrix, I guess, he's up there. And Eddie Van Halen, and he won't be moved from that perch. No way.
As you said, man, it's Pantera took heavy metal to a new level.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that song. That was a mad ass
second song on the album.
Yeah. Vulgar Display of Power, and what a song that was.
Drop D tuning.
You think about it, man.
Yeah, and I think this is, it's some of the guys from the band like Phil and Rex. I think on that Revolver interview, that's still one of their favourite songs from the album. Yeah, and I think Phil still plays that, like when he plays a Pantera song with one of his bands, Phil Anselmo and the Illegals,
yes,
or Down,
yep.
Which they're not together, or they're not really doing anything.
No, but I remember him talking recently about the Illegals and how when they started rehearsing the Pantera songs, it was really important to Phil, super important that they got those songs right, because, and it's the same to this day, you know what I mean? I guess I've dreamed, I guess a lot of people have dreamed over the years about maybe doing a Pantera tribute band.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know what? The way I look at it, if I could never do just one of their songs justice, don't touch it.
No.
Don't touch it.
No. And, before Vinny passed away, there was often talks about maybe one-off gigs and bringing in Zach Wilde on guitar.
Yep.
And he probably, I don't think I really wanted to see that, although Zach would have been the perfect person to do it.
He's the only one you'd really want to do it, but at the same time, it still just wouldn't fill that void. It'd be the closest guy to fill the void, but it would never fill that void. Yeah,
and it's not to take anything away from Zach. Like,
no,
Zach and Dime were best buddies, and I really feel sorry for Zach.
Yeah, for sure.
But some things you just shouldn't do, and to be fair, they didn't do it.
Yep. It didn't feel right to them, so they left it.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, personally, it's a great mentality to have.
Yeah.
You know, but a new level, it was just, I remember hearing that song for the first time, man. Just hearing that, what's this? You know, you hear that guitar goes, Vinnie Paul doing the, you know, drums, and then it just kicks into it, and it's like, wow, it's just like,
and hear those guitars when Dime starts palm muting,
and it's just like,
it almost breaks the speakers.
That's where so you get that boom, 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 and it's just like that. Again, you channel any rage that you had into that, and then the main verse riff would kick in, and you just lose it even more. And then the chorus would kick in, and it is like a new level. And you just pump away at it, and you couldn't stop. Even if you wanted to, you couldn't stop. It was just one of those things.
But even those lyrics, I think, summed up what this album and period of time was for Pantera. A new level of confidence and power.
Yeah.
Such power, and that just, I think that summed them up for that period of time. You know, they're coming off Cowboys, they were reaching a new level, they had the confidence because they just toured, you know, and they had shit to prove. Like, they weren't just fucking around.
I remember Phil saying they toured for like 330 something, 30 or 40 days or something straight.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, it wasn't unheard of sort of thing back then. I mean, Metallica toured for like, you know, 3 years straight with the Black Album.
Yeah, but they were pretty well accustomed to touring by then.
Yeah, for sure.
But playing that sort of music, whether it be Metallica or Pantera, that shit wouldn't be easy to play every night.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's not just picking up an acoustic guitar and singing a few songs. That's pretty tiring sort of stuff.
As I said, man, in the end, it's still a job, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's still a job, you know. It's what makes it really hard for musicians. They would spend all this time on the road. It means you can't land a career somewhere. You can't go and, you know, do some sort of, you know, picking and packing job or anything like that, because you're on the road for so long, and then you come back to reality and it's like, oh, okay, well, where do I make my money now? If you weren't selling heaps of albums, like, thankfully for Pantera back then, they were selling the albums. Metallica was selling the albums and stuff. But I mean, if you look at bands like Type O Negative, for instance, you had Peter Steele. Now, Peter Steele, you know, I'm still jealous to this day that I never got to see Type O Negative tour here in Australia. But Peter Steele hated touring, absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
And even throughout all his time playing with Type O Negative, he still always maintained a job at his local council as a garbo driver, as a garbage truck driver.
Wow.
And it was quite amazing. But how does any band of Pantera's stature do that? So
he couldn't.
A job's a job, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and that was their job, is selling albums and putting on shows for people. And, you know, I remember when I saw him in 94, Phil stopped halfway, you know, after about the third or second song. He's like, you know, fuck all these laser shows and shit and stuff like that.
Flying dragons and shit.
We're not about that. It's like, we just want to come here.
Yeah.
We want to play music for you, give you a basic light show and party with you guys.
Yeah.
And that's what Pantera were about, man. And nothing's ever going to change.
Well, I was lucky enough to see them in 2000 or 2001.
2001.
Yeah, at Festival Hall again. And I was 18.
Was that the Great Southern Trendkill? Yeah?
No, it would have been Reinventing the Steel.
Yes, you're right. Actually, it was.
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't remember a lot from the show. And I think it's because I was pretty young,
Yeah.
and I think we'd had a few drinks before we went in. I remember.
How could you not?
I remember I dyed my hair black around that time. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, and we were in the mosh. Somehow we got in the mosh, and I went down, and before I knew it, I was picked back up again. They looked after me.
Man, I've got to say, I have to say, this is a difference between one of those old school gigs to a new gig that you go to these days, right?
Yeah.
You go and see Parkway Drive. Great band, don't get me wrong. I love them, right? You go there, they're aiming those pits as to almost knock people out. Do you know what I mean? They're not... I'm not saying this to be a pussy or anything, right? But they're not safe spaces in those pits. We're back in the Pantera days. If someone fell over or someone got knocked to the ground, you picked them up. You made that space and you picked that person up to make sure they were okay. And then they'd give you the thumbs up and go, yeah, I'm all good, man. And you go, yeah. And you'd pick that person up and you'd send them crowd surfing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sadly, you don't see that stuff these days, man. The old school crowd was just a whole nother world in those sort of pits compared to this day and age.
Yeah.
And look, I apologise. It is a personal opinion, but you know, I've spoke to plenty of people over the years about this subject, and it's one of those things because I saw that firsthand in Pantera's tours, you know what I mean? Where people would get knocked down and everyone would be doing their best to try and push people out of the way so you could pick that person up, you'd make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
And you'd send them off if they weren't okay. I remember I had my little rule, man. If you needed to get out of a pit, you crouch down and you wiggle yourself backwards, you push your bum out and you wiggle backwards, and that's how you would get out of the pit safely.
Well, I was picked up before I even realised that I was down. And I always appreciated that, but that was probably one of the last times I went in a pit. And one of the first, and it was a hell of a first one to be in. But,
you either have a good experience or a bad experience.
Well, it wasn't bad, you know, because I was looked after. But I prefer these days, or you know, since then, to actually just sit back and watch. I don't need the pit experience.
That's
it's cool to watch, but I don't need that to enjoy the music. And you know, there's all sorts of different music fans. And that's just me. I prefer to sit back, watch, fret watch, and, you know, just watch my favourite band. But it was just something else. You know, it was such a crazy show that I can't really remember it. And I'm just so glad
you got to see it, man.
To see it.
Well done, man.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people never got to see him, man, and they never will now, you know what I mean? We are... I guess in a nutshell, man, we're really lucky, but when you think about it, man, how awesome we, for the short amount of time we're on this planet for. Yeah. We were alive when Dimebag was around, man.
Yeah.
When Pantera was around.
Yeah.
And that's something to speak for.
Yeah, they were a different animal, and you know, I mean, you just got to watch the videos, but I'm sure if you got to see them, you would sort of second that. And they're not just like any other band, any other heavy metal or rock band. Like they brought something extra.
They didn't try to put on a show. They didn't try and impress you. All they did, they were themselves. They didn't have to put on a show.
I'll tell you one of my favourite performances to watch of theirs, and one I go to, you know, when I go down that rabbit hole on a Friday night or a Saturday night having too many drinks, chuck on some Pantera. And one of my favourite things to chuck on is, I think it's like half an hour of footage from Ozfest 2001. And I think it was the last show of the Ozfest, of that tour. And, you know, Phil's wasted, no doubt the rest of them are too, but you can tell Phil is. And it's not the full Pantera performance. I'm sure it's out there to get somewhere. It's like half an hour, maybe 40 minutes of footage. You know, like Yesterday Don't Mean Shit, Cowboys, Primal Concrete Sledge.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to watch. It's just like, these guys are a different fucking animal.
They really are, man. They really are. And it's something you could always look forward to, you know what I mean?
And it was really, you know, I always liked the darkness of grunge and stuff like that. And Pantera had that. It wasn't sort of a manufactured darkness, you know, I'm singing about the devil and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like they had this thing, and, you know, Phil looked fucked up, but it added to the that darkness aesthetic of what they were doing. And, you know, had his long hair and
the mohawk. Did he have the mohawk at the time, or
no? I don't think it was a mohawk.
No, that was the Cowboys era, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like you know, reinventing the steel. It's like Revolution is my name. Yeah. Like, he had that sort of long hair.
What a kickass riff, huh?
Oh man, that song is a riff fest. But yeah, I always really loved that Ozfest 2001 performance. So go and check that out if you haven't seen that.
Just check out any Pantera show.
Yeah.
You know, oh man, if we're going to talk about shows, you can't go past Monsters of Rock, Donington.
Oh yes, I had that on my list here.
Oh,
yeah, let me scroll back up.
Man, that was insane. Like, people died at that gig, man.
Did they?
Yeah, people died at that gig, but it wasn't from being crushed and stuff like that. It was more from the brutality of police and stuff, whacking people with batons because they hadn't seen anything of a sort either. It was just, again, a way to just release yourself, you know, just channel that anger.
And the Russians wouldn't have been used to
not at
having
all.
that. So, yeah, I think after being in the studio for 2 months, this is during the recording of Vulgar, so it hadn't come out yet. Pantera were invited to open for Metallica and AC/DC at the 1991 Monsters of Rock
a gig.
free concert in Moscow. On September 28, 1991, the band then returned to the studio after that to, you know, sort of finish Vulgar. Vinny said the crowd treated us like Led Zeppelin, even though most of them had never heard us. And yeah, you just watch. I think, didn't they put that on a
New Level film clip? If you watch the New Level film clip, that whole film clip is based at Donington.
But they did a bit of a. Oh, you said Donington. What did you say? Monsters of Rock.
Monsters of Rock.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Is that Donington?
No, that's Germany, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, Monsters of Rock is Russia.
Yeah, Monsters of Rock was the one that was the one that was really screwed up, man.
Where they played Domination.
Yep, Domino, which is great.
Cowboys.
They actually recorded that live.
Part of that, they did a little documentary on that. It must be on one of the home videos.
Yeah, it is.
Where didn't they sleep in a little tent?
A tent.
Yeah, and they had like Phil was eating gummy bears for food
and stuff, and I remember Vinny going, you know, that's Vinny's drumsticks over there. Don't get too close to him.
Yeah, that's right. That's all right. Yeah, they took like a little tour of their fucking sleeping tent.
Yeah, and all they had to eat was KFC or McDonald's.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it must be on the.
It's on the videos, the Vulgar videos. But it really was like, you just look at the footage of that, and it really was a sight to see. I mean, if you think of the biggest crowd you've ever seen, just times it by 10.
Yeah, and I think Kirk Hammett said that too. Like, you look out and you think you can see the end of the crowd, but you can't.
Yeah.
And yeah, you see the Russian police sort of just hitting people with batons.
Rubber batons, man, just cracking them.
But you get bands like Metallica, like they were in their peak then, live.
Yeah, yep.
And new bands like Pantera coming out, you know, that had something to prove. And you watch the footage of either one of those bands and it's fucking incredible. Especially Domination, I think, stands out for me. You know, Dime's solo and stuff like that. Just the way he... Oh, man.
It's funny. I know a lot of people who know Pantera and who are listening to this are going to be like, they're going to know exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. You know what I mean? But for those new people who've probably let's just say I've never heard of Pantera. I've probably heard of them, but never really gotten into them. It's just honestly, do yourself a favor. Just go and get Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power. And even if you listen to it just one time, do yourself that favor and just listen to the album just once.
Yep.
And I think you might understand exactly where we're coming from with their playing, the rawness of the sound and everything that Pantera was.
Well, they said Cowboys was sort of the debut album for like the power groove or the groove metal thing, but I don't know. I think personally, I think it was Vulgar, but I guess
I reckon I believe, and again, personal opinion, but I think Cowboys from Hell was a segue.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It was a segue to Vulgar Display of Power. It set a new tone, and I went, you know what? This actually really works for us because, you know, when you hear Cowboys from Hell, that album is really completely different to what they had done previously. And it's like, I think it's almost like they were just testing new waters.
Yeah.
And it really worked for them. And I think from there, it's like they caught a wave. And the best part about Pantera, man, they rode the wave to the fullest extent. As you said, man, you had the Cowboys from Hell, these dudes that are just reckless and love playing music and they're into what they're doing, to Vulgar Display of Power, where they really show what they're all about with their raw aggression and how vulgar they can be, to Far Beyond Driven. Oof. When you think of that, Far Beyond Driven, it's like these guys are driven to the core, but we're going further than that.
Yeah.
To, you know, the Great Southern Trendkill, which almost, when you say that slowly, man, the Great Southern Trendkill, it's like, they set the tone, man. They set that tone for that Southern style metal, man.
So to me, like, I don't think this is something that's often discussed. It's like, you know, people often discuss like grunge came from a different part of America than like glam. Glam was LA.
Yep.
Grunge was Seattle. But Pantera was Texas.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's discussed very often. Maybe that had something to do with it. They came from a different part of America. Not like they were the first band to ever come or base themselves in Texas, but you know, a lot of Metallica was San Francisco.
Yeah, you had your bass thrash metal and stuff from San Fran, and
Pantera cut their teeth in Texas, you know, on the live scene. So maybe that's got something to do with it.
These guys worked their way to where they got. You got to remember, this didn't happen overnight for Pantera.
No, not at all. No.
You know, these guys formed in the early 80s like every other band did.
Yeah.
And worked their way up and really didn't hit it big time until after Cowboys from Hell.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't until they really didn't get the big notoriety until, you know, towards the end of Vulgar Display of Power, just before
Far Beyond Driven
come out. And as I said, as I was talking to you through the week, and I said, you know, Vulgar Display of Power never had an actual tour. Their first tour was Far Beyond Driven.
Yeah. So for Vulgar, they toured with Soundgarden, Skid Row, I think White Zombie, Megadeth in Europe, I think.
All the American greats. I mean, I remember hearing about the Pantera Metallica tour, and I was like, oh my God, how good would that be if they come down here for that?
Yeah.
That would have been absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, then you got Walk, the riff. You got the riff, the video, you know, the ultimate sort of heavy metal anthem, really. And it was actually the fourth single from the album. So you had Mouth for War.
The third. So it had Mouth for War, A New Level.
Yeah.
And it finished off with that, Your Size.
Yeah.
And then it was Walk after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just like that one riff, that one down tune. Like, I don't even know what tuning it was in. It was like
It's drop D, I think.
Drop D.
Yeah.
But as I said, drop D, but even a little bit more than that D just to get that dime tone. I was just like, I remember, because back in the day when we were trying to learn that, it was like, it was just on that first fret, just bending down.
Just a little bend.
We were discussing it yesterday going, it's almost like when you play it, you almost have to, when you hit that first note, you almost have to have it already bent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, we didn't have Google back then. We didn't have Ultimate Guitar back then. So you had to figure out these songs for yourself, or if you were lucky, a mate might have had a tab that he was able to get somehow or anything. And I remember playing it in D and going from the second fret to the first fret, going dun, 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 and then so it was almost like a triplet instead of just the bend on that first fret, trying to get the tone out. It worked, but you know, to find out in this day and age with it, you never actually did it. It was all just done on that first fret, but it's such a powerful riff, just with his tone all together with those mids right out there, just hearing that. And
that's how the song starts with the drum. And
insane.
It's like, and that was Dime's playing as well. Like, he did those fucked up little bends in a lot of his solos and stuff. And that was a feel thing. You know, he didn't like straight sounding patterns, I guess. You know, he fucked with it. He chucked an odd note in there or an odd bend just to fuck with it and make it his own.
Walk is one of my all-time favorite guitar solos.
Oh yeah.
Because when he's playing that solo and he does those slides where he's like, and it was like, wow, man, you never hear a guitarist do.
Yeah.
It was really like almost like the only other guitarist I can compare at the time doing weird stuff like that was Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, who would, you know, play around with his frets and his pickups and stuff. And
yeah, but he had effects. I mean, not to take anything away from him, but he used a lot of effects pedals. I guess Dime used a few too, to be fair.
Yeah, of course, but you know, but just it was more about his hand techniques and the solo from Walk was just insane. And even to this day, it's like you go to a pub or a club or wherever you are, man, tell me, 38 years old, you still hear Walk, you still lose your shit, don't you? It's just one of those songs.
Yeah, and the video, it's like, it's a heavy metal anthem.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yep.
But to be honest, like I sort of skip over this song when it comes on now.
Yep.
Just for like an Enter Sandman or a Sweet Child of Mine.
Overplayed?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And it's like people who aren't Pantera fans like Walk. So it's kind of been, you know, I don't want to sound like a bastard, but it's been poisoned in that sort of.
Just as you said, it's like Number of the Beast, Enter Sandman.
But it doesn't take anything away from what the song was. It turned into that.
As you said, man, they're anthems, and anthems get boring after a while.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, anthems get boring after a while.
But if you're there live, like that song, or even if you watch it live, you know, it goes off.
Yep.
And I don't know if this means anything to you as a drummer, the time signature of the riff is 12/8. What does that mean? Can you tell?
Sorry, I was just playing it in my head now.
yeah. 12/8.
12/8.
Yeah.
12/8.
Yeah.
That would almost still make it a 4/4 song.
Well, yeah, it doesn't sound too far.
I think when 12/8, it sounds like a complicated riff, but
it's probably not.
But in hindsight, it really isn't, because it still breaks down into fours.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I mean, I don't mean it's simple to play, like it is the first part, but if you play the tail end of that riff, good luck.
Oh, the end of it, I get it, but it's still not it's one of those songs, it's just all feel, man. It's all feel.
But the solo, I agree, yeah. I mean, it's hard to fault any Dimebag solo, really, but...
I'd love to just be able to play just one solo of Dimebag's, just one.
Have you heard the Avenged Sevenfold cover of this song, of Walk? That was on one of their albums.
Walk. I know they did a cover of, I think it was, they've done a few Pantera covers now. I can't remember the one that I heard, but
yeah, they had the balls to chuck it on the end of one of their albums.
Wow.
And I thought, that's ballsy. And look, they did it.
They did it justice.
Yeah.
I'll have to go. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
But, and look, let's move to the next song, The Madness of fucking Hostile.
Yeah.
Wow. If that just didn't punch you in the teeth, nothing else would. It was like just start. I just feel just going, who I tell 3 4 and just kicking into it just so fast and just in your face. And it's just like, and again, it's like Dom's guitar work in that song is just amazing. Like, it's hard to even just try and replicate the sound of the chorus.
Yeah, I think they hit a bit of the thrash metal thing in this song.
Yes,
I think,
definitely.
with
definitely
the
had the thrash in there and like that that little riff is like
yeah. Oh man.
It's incredible song. Really short song. It's one of their shortest songs they ever done, I think.
It's like 2 minutes something.
Yeah, 2 minutes something, and it's just a grab you by the throat and punch you in the face song. It's like, wake up, this is Pantera, mothers.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of my song at the moment, fucking hostile. I'm pretty hostile to a lot of things going on.
Yep.
But, I mean, we should mention as well, like, Phil's vocal style from Cowboys to Vulgar. Like, on Cowboys, I guess he had more of the Rob Halford.
And that's where I was saying before that I believe that the Cowboys from Hell was a transition from the power metal to what they were doing in the end of days. Yeah. Is, because he had that lovely singing tone in Cowboys from Hell.
Yeah.
And, don't get us wrong, he still had some really good voices, and you can hear that in the song Hollow at the very end, the last song of the track, where he's got a really nice ballad in there, and you can still hear his nice, clean singing tones. But, this album is what shaped Pantera hands down. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of the high notes, like in Cemetery Gates and stuff like that, you didn't hear that from Vulgar onwards, really.
No, you really didn't.
It was all growl.
Yeah, it was
onwards.
all growls, and and as you know, with Great Southern Trendkill, he got Seth to do the scream at the start of Suicide Note. Who was Seth from? I can't remember what band Seth was from.
Is that the same as the middle of War Nerve? Like the big high screams?
Yeah, I think so. It's not that Phil couldn't do them at all. Yeah. I think it was more about having guests playing on the albums and stuff.
Okay.
But after fucking Hostile, man, there was This Love.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which was another, I don't know. It was like that. A power ballad, but not a power ballad.
Yeah.
I got a funny story with this, man.
Go for it.
This Love, I loved it. It's a great song, as you know. It's a nice, slow, sort of lovey-dovey song sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And, the chorus was really punchy and stuff. But the verses were real nice and lovey-dovey and stuff. So I remember I used to dedicate this song to my ex, one of my exes. And I used to sing it to her, and then I found out that it was actually about a prostitute.
Which the video sort of hinted at.
Yeah, but I, being a stupid teenager, I'd never got that hint. You know what I mean? It was just really, really funny. You know what I mean? But that's a great song. It's like a lovely power ballad. You hear Phil's nice vocals in that too. Yeah, and you hear actual Dimebag singing in this song for the first time.
Oh, really?
Too, yeah. So he's doing love thing, love child, love die. So it's it's a combination of him and Phil on doing the vocals for that. And when playing it live, it was always Dime and Phil singing it, or him and Rex, and Dime and Rex doing the alternate vocals there.
Isn't there a clip, it could be on the home videos again, of Dime singing Seek and Destroy
Yes.
by Metallica?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah. So he was a bit of a singer.
Yeah, he had a good voice on him.
Yeah.
A really good voice on him, actually. It's just...
But
you know what I hated about Dime? He was just one of those natural, talented musicians.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, you know what I mean? We spend years honing our craft and stuff, trying to get better and better. And this guy was bloody natural, man. This guy had won how many guitar competitions
when he was younger,
by the age of 16. That I remember talking about this, and this was all just riff-raff at the time, but you know, the talk of he'd been banned from playing in any guitar competitions because he just friggin' won them all.
That's pretty important. I mean, I don't remember where I read that actually, but yeah, he won all these guitar competitions as a teenager.
Yeah.
He grew up in Texas, I think.
Yeah.
So it must have been something local.
Yeah.
And they ended up banning him because he kept winning.
There was no one who could just how insane, you know what I mean? Here we are. I've been playing, even though I'm a drummer, you know what I mean? I've been dabbling guitar for 15 years now, and I still can't even play a single song from start to finish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just incredible. It's insane that some musicians have the intelligence and that power in their head to just be able to do without thinking, without even thinking about it.
Well, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but I've got the Guitar World Dime tribute behind Glenn here, and I've also got the Dime replica guitar that I picked up somewhere.
The good old Dime Bolt.
As a tribute, yeah. I almost brought... Before I got the Schecter guitar, I almost brought a Dime Dean guitar because they were shipping a few to Australia.
That's right. I saw that. You could pre-order them.
Yeah, and I thought,
I saw that. It was tempting for myself as well. Not that as I said, not that I play guitar well, but it's just just to have one, man. Just to have one of those razors or the lightning bolt or the what was his other one? The Dime Slime.
Yeah, and they weren't that expensive like you would expect.
Yeah, it was only. I think they were only about $1,600 or something.
Yeah. Whereas like a Slash, I think the new Slash 4 guitar, I think, is available. It's like $5,000. It's like, I'm not going to. Yeah. But, so this Love, I mean, that's got one of my favourite Dime riffs in the middle of that song, like that sort of master of puppetry sort of riff.
Are you talking about the solo or?
No, but before the solo. I think it's after the second chorus. And it jumps into this riff before it does that bit. No more head trips. Just before that, it's like a bit of a master of puppetsy sort of riff.
It's like that was the breakdown before breakdowns were a thing. When you think about it,
there's so much to this song, and I wrote down a quote here that Phil said, "I wanted to sing the truth, as ugly as it was a lot of the time," he said. In songs like Hollow and This Love, I wrote about losing people, and I've had healthy doses of it from early in life. Yeah, I had a few friends commit suicide. So I think this sort of tied in with Hollow, basically about losing people. So something like This Love is not a specific song about any one of them. It's a collective. I think even then, when I was writing it in 1992, I think that people were going to take the lyrics and make them their own. I tried to... Like
we were talking about before with interpretation.
I tried to make it a heart-throbbing gut-wrencher for everyone to relate to. Yeah. So, you make it your own, and he obviously wrote it from a point of view, but not everyone's going to relate to that, but they can hear, the emotion and what he's singing about. And Guitar World ranked this song as number 5 on their top 25 list of Pantera songs.
Wow,
And the video was directed by Kevin Kerslake. So,
it's pretty good film. Though I remember that one.
Yeah,
I just said the video before. The video really taps onto sort of like prostitution and I guess you see, I know, not from first-hand experience, but a mate of mine years ago sold his house. He went through a divorce and sold his house and stuff, and he all the money he got from it, he ended up going to a strip club every single night and spending this money to the point where he honestly believed that this stripper was his girlfriend. And to be honest with you, man, she bled him dry. Bled him dry to the point where he thought that she was his girlfriend, and it was never the case, you know. She was always who she was, and, you know, that's their job. And, but again, interpretation, man. As I said, I interpreted that as being a love song for my girlfriend, you know. Yeah. But each to their own, really, when you think about it.
It's a big song, though. Like, there's a lot of different parts to it.
That.
And even Dime solo, like, taking out the song, I reckon
lots of bends and stuff in that.
Yeah, it's fucking brilliant, you know. There's a lot in that song, like in that, I think it's like 6 minutes or maybe a bit longer.
I think it was 5 minutes 50, I think.
There's a lot in that. And it's probably one of the last songs that sort of Phil was singing like that.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, that and Hollow, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember after, the only time next song you heard Phil really singing was Far Beyond Drill when they covered Planet Caravan.
Oh, yeah.
But even then, his vocals had so many effects stretched on it. You know, they just really wanted to replicate, you know, Planet Caravan in a sense.
And then Suicide Note Part 1 on 2. Oh, sorry, on Tranquil.
Yeah. But it was almost just like an intro sort of thing, really, wasn't it? You couldn't, like, you can know, yeah, it was a song, but it wasn't, it was more like just an interlude to Suicide Note Part 2.
Yeah.
Because as we know, that was one of their darkest eras of their life, you know. Yeah. I remember, you know, that in Suicide Note, it was inspired from Phil because he actually died from a heroin dose and actually got brought back to life.
It was good, because there's not a lot of information out there about that. And I remember seeing one interview with Phil, again, while I had a few drinks, so I can't remember who it was from, but he was pretty candid about things. And I'll have to look that up now because, there's not a lot out there about that period of time for Phil especially, because I think he was in the darkest because of his back pain, wasn't it?
That's right, he had a lot of back pain. There was a lot of issues with Pantera because he wanted to branch off and do stuff with Superjoint Ritual. Yeah. And it was almost the, you know, don't quote me on this, but it was almost like the beginning of the end of Pantera around that time, you know what I mean? Yeah. I guess in a nutshell, we were lucky to even get a tour from Pantera at the time because, you know, that's when they were really having a lot of major issues and stuff, you know, once that album was released and stuff. And, you know, there was, I guess, a bit of unsurety whether they would even tour again. Yeah. But, you know, good for us. They pulled their shit together, man. They pulled their shit together and they ended up touring again. We got to see them again.
Do you know if they toured in, what was it, 96 for Tranquil? Like, did they tour Australia?
7. We got them in 97.
97, yeah.
97 at the Glass House.
Glass House?
The Glass House.
Yeah, right.
Which is I remember that. That was another really good gig because, again, like any Pantera gig, being a massive Pantera fan that I am, man, it's like every gig that I went to and I saw Pantera, I got there at 7:30 in the morning and just lined up all day waiting for the doors to open. And, you know, I remember at the Glass House gig, halfway in the middle of the day, Big Val come out.
Oh, Big Val.
Big Val.
Oh, he died, didn't he?
Yeah, he was another one that was killed the same night that Dimebag and Cat were killed, man. Yeah.
Really?
He was shot as well. So,
fuck.
Yeah, he come out and had a good chat to us and stuff, man. And I'll never forget that, you know what I mean? And for those guys listening again, if you watch the Pantera videos, you see good good whole 10, 15 minutes of Big Val that they do, and he was Pantera's bodyguard pretty much. He was head of security for Pantera, so and ultimately he paid with his life trying to protect them. So
I remember that scene in the home videos. I don't remember which, whether it was 1, 2, or 3 or whatever they labeled them as, but that cake eating contest.
Yes.
Where he had to eat that whole cake, and he went for it.
Yeah.
He gave it a good crack, and then
he was, put it his way, he was hurting in the end.
Whoa, Big Val! Oh man, they put him through hell.
I tell you what, man. After this chat today, I'm going to go home tonight. I'm going to watch these videos again. It's insane.
So
they have these little spin-off things in there, and it's not just all about music for these videos. They'll throw a video in every now and then, but it's more about just their antics and stuff. And it was just insane. You get cameos from Type O Negative and Skid Row and Metallica and all their tours.
That Kiss song that I don't know who.
Cat Scratch Fever.
Yeah, most of the Skid Row band and Phil might have been. I don't know if Dime was out there. They played like a Kiss song. Yeah. On that tour, and that would have been the Vulgar. The Vulgar era.
Well, again, a lot of people wouldn't know this, but the Abbotts were massive fans of Kiss. They were like, that's who they idolised is Kiss, and there's a massive thing online about, not online, but on the videos and that, where they actually got to meet, Gene Simmons and the whole Kiss band and stuff. And they actually got their tattoos on them, so you actually see them getting the tattoos of Ace Frehley and stuff on their chest and their arms and back and. Massive. It's amazing when you sit there and go, we idolise Pantera, and then you look at those guys and they idolise Kiss, and it's like that's just amazing where people's music careers start off.
Well, it always starts from idolising someone else, and that's why we're no different, really. And I think it's in Dime Vision. That Dime shows off these pickups in his guitar that like smoking pickups. Pretty sure it's Dime Vision, like Ace Frehley had on his guitar.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
He jumps out of the bus, like the tour bus, and he's like got these smoking pickups. And I think it was all due to Ace Frehley. And at the end of the day, we're all just fanboys of someone else, aren't we?
That's right. Yeah. That's what music is, man. It's what music is.
He didn't sound like Kiss, he took it 20 levels above, and but at the end of the day, Kiss and Eddie Van Halen, I think Randy Rhoads as well.
Randy
were
Rhoads.
His probably main influences, and
definitely.
He just took it a bit further. So after what we're up to, This Love, we got Rise.
Rise. No, that one.
Rise. Rise.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's not one of my favourites off the album.
You know what? It's like if every band has one, right? When they write an album, they've got a what do you call it? A filler.
Yeah, and sometimes that's not fair to label it as that.
No, it's not.
But compared to some of the other songs.
Compared to some of the other songs, a lot of people would see Rise as a filler, but it's got a really good groove to it, which is, that's what Pantera's known for. Their groove metal. It's like, and
the solo, man, like the solos kick ass.
Yeah.
And even Phil's vocals are really good on this song. Because, I was listening to it in the last couple of days and I'm like, this is one of those filler songs. But then, I'm listening a bit more. I'm like, there's more to it than that. It's not fair to label it as that. But compared to fucking Hostile and A New Level, unfortunately it falls in that category, I think. Yeah. But it's still a good song.
And look, to be honest with you, where they've put it in the album, it really fits well.
Yeah.
It really fits well. It comes in after This Love. You just had this epic song, this power ballad, sort of like with a chunky verse and, this really hardcore breakdown at the end. And then, Rise fits in there to just bring that tempo back up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it really fit well. It's a really good chorus, really good solo in it. Like, I mean, any solo, you can't. What am I talking about? Shut up, Glenn. But you know what I mean. Any solo Dime does is a masterpiece. But then after Rise, you get to what is it? No Good. Attack the Radical. Yeah. And that just comes in with Vinnie Paul's, toms and Dimebag's guitar just going. It's like, and it's just this awesome, powerful riff.
Yeah.
And then it breaks down to sort of like a half time. I've trampled along that road that you think that you own. You have that smart ass attitude.
It's time to stop the fiction.
And it's a really good song because you're getting to hear Phil's vocals and he's talking a lot in that song as well. It's almost like he's just talking rather than singing in that song.
And I think I heard a lot of that later on in like Slipknot and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah. Corey Taylor does a lot of that.
Yeah. And, Phil deserves big props. Like,
damn, yeah.
He probably started as like a Rob Halford sort of singer, but he took it further than that. And
that's what I love. Towards the end, from like Vulgar onwards, you hear Phil in his natural sort of like tone, his natural, where he's the most comfortable, I would say. He's not trying to
emulate
anything or anyone else. He's Phil. And I think that's what makes any great singer great, is they're just using their natural voice. They're not trying to emulate anyone. Like when you think of people like, let's say, I know you're not a big fan, but Eddie Vedder. Eddie Vedder has that 90s tone, you know what I mean? That big 90s sort of like Darius Ruckus from Hootie and the Blowfish. They had that 90s sound, just let her cry.
And then Creed comes along.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That sort of sound. They're all trying to emulate a voice there. Yeah. But Phil never done that. Phil was just like, fuck this shit. This is me.
Yeah.